The moment you go silent, they lose control. They were comfortable reading you, predicting you, controlling the rhythm of every interaction. And then something shifted. You stopped responding the way they expected. You stopped filling the space. You stopped explaining. And in that exact moment, something inside them started to break. Because silence doesn't just remove words, it removes certainty. And most people don't realize how dependent they are on that. At first, they don't react. Not outwardly. They assume it's temporary. A delay, a distraction. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you didn't see the message. They tell themselves a story that keeps their control intact. But then more time passes, and something uncomfortable begins to creep in. Because you were predictable before, you answered quickly, you reacted, you gave them something to hold on to. And now, there's nothing. No reaction, no explanation, no reassurance, just silence. And silence is where control starts to collapse. Because now they have to think. And the moment they start thinking, they lose stability. They replay your last interaction, searching for something they missed. But there's nothing obvious, no clear trigger, no visible reason, which makes it worse. Because when people can't find a reason, they create one. And the first place they look is themselves. Did I say something wrong? Did I push too far? Did they lose interest? That's when the shift happens. They go from feeling in control to feeling uncertain. And uncertainty creates pressure. So they try to regain control the only way they know how. They reach out again, casual at first, light, low investment, almost like nothing changed. But this message isn't about connection. It's about testing the silence. They're trying to see if they can pull you back into the pattern. If you respond, they relax. Control restored. But if you don't, if the silence continues, that's when the pressure doubles. Because now, it's not just uncertainty, it's rejection without explanation. And that's something most people cannot tolerate. So they escalate. Another message, more effort this time, more intention, maybe even a hint of emotion. But underneath it, there's something else. A need to close the gap, to force clarity where there is none. Because silence creates a void, and the human mind is wired to fill it. But here's what they don't realize. Every message they send, every attempt to pull you back, is proof that they've already lost control. Because control requires certainty, and silence removes it completely. Now they're reacting. Now they're chasing clarity. And you haven't said a word. That's the power of silence. It doesn't fight for control. It exposes who never had it. Because the one who needs answers is not in control. The one who can sit in silence without needing to resolve it. That's the one who holds it. And this is where things get even more interesting, because the longer the silence lasts, the more intense their internal reaction becomes. At first, it was curiosity, then uncertainty. Now it turns into overthinking. They start analyzing everything. Your tone, your timing, your last words, your behavior days ago. Things they never questioned before suddenly feel important because they're searching for patterns, trying to rebuild predictability. But there is none, and that's what destabilizes them. Because predictable people are easy to manage. But unpredictable silence feels like a loss of access, a loss of influence, a loss of control. And people don't react calmly to losing control, they compensate. Some will become more persistent, more messages, more effort, more attempts to get a reaction. Too emotional, from confident to uncertain, from controlled to reactive. And they won't even realize it's happening because it's not conscious. It's pressure. Silence creates pressure. And pressure reveals behavior. You're not making them react. You're removing the structure that was hiding their reaction. And now it's visible. Now it's undeniable. Now they're exposed. Because when someone is used to getting responses and suddenly they don't, their mind doesn't slow down. It speeds up. It fills the silence with noise, questions, assumptions, scenarios. What are they thinking right now? Why aren't they responding? Are they ignoring me on purpose? And that last question, that's where it turns. Because now it feels intentional. Now it feels like a decision, and that creates emotional tension. Because if it's intentional, it means you're choosing not to engage, and that removes their influence completely. That's when the discomfort becomes real. Because now they're not just confused, they're aware that they don't have control anymore. And awareness amplifies everything. Now every minute feels longer. Every notification matters. Every time their phone lights up, there's anticipation. And when it's not you, There's a drop, a subtle loss, that builds over time. Because silence stretches perception. It makes absence feel louder than presence ever did. And the longer it continues, the more they feel it. Not as logic, but as emotion. And emotion doesn't wait for answers. It reacts, it escalates, it pushes because it wants resolution. But you're not giving it, you're not feeding it, you're not responding to it. And that's what breaks the pattern. Because most people are used to reaction loops. They say something, you respond, they adjust, you react. It's predictable, manageable, controllable. But silence interrupts that loop completely. There's nothing to adjust to, nothing to respond to, nothing to control. And that's when they realize they're not in the interaction anymore. They're outside it, trying to get back in. They thought the silence would fade, that it would pass, soften, lose its weight over time. But it didn't. It stayed unmoved, unchanged, present. And that's what started to affect them. Because silence, that lingers, becomes something the mind can't ignore. At first, they tried to dismiss it. They told themselves it didn't matter, that it wasn't important, that they could focus on other things. But the mind doesn't work like that. Not when something feels unfinished. Not when something doesn't make sense, because the brain is wired to resolve, to complete, to close loops. And your silence left the loop wide open. No ending, no explanation, no signal, just space. And that space began to fill itself. At first, with logic, simple explanations that made them feel in control. They're just busy. They'll get back to me. It's nothing. But time passed, and those explanations started to break. Because nothing changed, no message, no reaction, no shift. So the mind adapted. The thoughts became more personal, more emotional, more unstable. Why would they ignore me? Did something happen? Did I mess this up somehow? And that's when the silence stopped being neutral and started feeling intentional. Because when something continues unchanged, it doesn't feel accidental anymore. It feels chosen. And that's where the pressure begins. Because being ignored by accident is easy to rationalize. But being ignored by choice feels different. It feels like a decision they weren't part of. And that creates tension. Because now they're not just confused. They're excluded from your thoughts, your actions. Your attention and exclusion is something people react to deeply, even if they don't show it, because it challenges something internal. Their sense of position, their sense of control, their sense of importance. And once that's challenged, the mind doesn't stay calm. It starts searching for answers, for meaning, for clarity. But silence doesn't give any. So the search turns inward. They replay everything. Your last message, your tone, your timing. Looking for a mistake, a trigger, a reason, something that explains why this is happening. But there's nothing clear, nothing obvious. And that's what makes it worse. Because when there's no clear reason, the mind creates one. And the first place it looks is itself. Maybe I pushed too much. Maybe I said the wrong thing. Maybe they lost respect. Each thought lands differently, but all of them do the same thing. They pull attention deeper. They create emotional weight. They increase investment, because now it's not just about you, it's about them, their actions, their value, their position. And that shift is what locks them in. Because now they need to know not just what you're doing, but what it means about them. And that question, where do I stand? That's the one that doesn't go away. It repeats constantly in the background of everything else, because it has no answer. Not without you, and you're not giving one. So they stay in it, thinking, looping, analyzing, trying to solve something that has no visible solution. And the longer they stay in that state, the more intense it becomes. Because attention amplifies everything. The more they think about it, the more real it feels. The more important it becomes. The more emotional it gets. And now, you're no longer just someone they were talking to. You've become something unresolved, something unfinished, something that holds their attention, without even trying. And that's where the behavior changes. Because people don't sit comfortably in uncertainty, they act. They reach out again, but this time it's different. There's less control, less distance, more intention. Because now they need a response. They might try to sound casual, but there's pressure behind it. They might try to be indirect, but there's urgency underneath. Because now they're not testing the silence. They're trying to break it. And if you respond, even once, the pressure disappears. Everything resets. They feel stable again. If the silence continues, that's when the dynamic flips completely. Before, they were comfortable. Now they're invested. Before, they were leading. Now they're waiting. And waiting creates tension, because time feels different when you're expecting something. Minutes stretch, hours feel heavier. The absence becomes noticeable, then unavoidable, then constant. They check their phone more often, not out of habit but out of need, because their mind is waiting for something to change, something to resolve the tension. But nothing does, and that's what keeps them there, because the brain expects patterns, it expects continuity. But your silence broke that completely. There's no pattern anymore, no rhythm, no predictability. And without that, they don't know how to position themselves. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what to do. So they default to reaction. They start watching more closely, looking for signals. If you post something, they notice. If you interact anywhere, they notice. Because now they're searching constantly for meaning, for clues, for anything that helps them understand what's happening. But nothing explains it, because silence doesn't explain itself. It forces interpretation. And interpretation is where everything escalates, because now they're not reacting to what you did. They're reacting to what they think it means. And those thoughts keep changing, keep evolving, keep pulling them deeper. One moment, they think you're uninterested. The next, they think you're testing them. Then, they think they did something wrong. Then they question everything. And that cycle doesn't stop, because it has no resolution. It has no clear end. It just keeps going until something breaks it. And the only thing that can break it is you. But you're not reacting, you're not responding. You're not giving them anything to stabilize the situation. So they stay in the loop, thinking, reacting, waiting. And the more time they spend there, the more invested they become. Because time creates attachment. Attention creates attachment. Emotion creates attachment. And they're giving all of it. Without getting anything back, that imbalance is what creates obsession. Because now, it's not about the interaction anymore. It's about how they feel without it. And that feeling is uncomfortable, unstable, unresolved. So they try again. One more message. But now, there's no distance, no control, just effort. Because now, they need closure. They need resolution. They need something to end the uncertainty. But silence doesn't end. Not unless you break it. And when you don't, that's when the final realization forms. Slowly, but clearly. This isn't random. It's not temporary. It's not emotional. It's controlled. And that realization changes how they see everything. Because now, you're not unpredictable. You're not distant. You're composed. You're not reacting. You're choosing not to. And that is what shifts the power completely. Because now they understand. They're the ones reacting. They're the ones waiting. They're the ones trying to fix something they can't control. And that's the moment it ends. Not the silence, but their control, because the one who needs the response is never the one who has it. The one who can stay silent, without pressure, without urgency, without reaction, that's the one in control. So stay silent, stay unreadable, and let them lose it completely. Subscribe if you want to master this level of control. When you embrace Stoicism, you learn that life is not about controlling external events, but about mastering your own mind. And yet, many people struggle to apply these principles in the chaos of daily life. Thoughts run wild, emotions flare, and distractions constantly pull your attention away from what truly matters. That is exactly why subscribing to this channel is more than a simple click it, is a commitment to your own practice. Here, we don't just talk about Stoicism. We show you how to live it, step by step, until it becomes instinct. Imagine waking each day with the clarity that nothing outside your control can disturb your inner calm. Imagine facing challenges without panic, without overthinking, without reacting impulsively. This is the essence of Stoicism. Learning to see what you can control and letting go of what you cannot. But knowledge alone is not enough. You need constant reinforcement, reminders that guide you back when the world's chaos threatens. That is exactly what subscribing to this channel provides. Every lesson is designed to strengthen your resilience. Consider the moments when you are frustrated by other people, by circumstances, by expectations. Stoicism teaches that these frustrations are not caused by events themselves, but by your judgments of them. By following our content regularly, you create a mental habit loop. You see these principles applied, repeated, and reinforced. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions. It is about understanding them and responding with intention. We show you how to pause before reacting, how to examine your impulses, how to choose thought over emotion. Every day, life presents small tests. A Stoic faces them with deliberate composure and careful observation. Consider the principle of amore fati, the love of fate. A Stoic embraces everything that happens as an opportunity for growth. Stoicism also emphasizes perspective. Many people suffer because they magnify the significance of events. Daily practice is the key. True mastery comes from repetition, from reinforcement, and from consistent application. This channel is designed as that daily practice. By subscribing, you are actively participating in your own transformation. People encounter triggers constantly: criticism, failure, disappointment. Stoicism teaches that these are opportunities for mastery. Another critical aspect is reflection. A Stoic constantly evaluates their own actions, thoughts, and habits. Stoicism also emphasizes control over desire. By understanding impulses and practicing restraint, you gain freedom. In essence, subscribing is a commitment to yourself, a promise to integrate Stoicism into every aspect of life. Even when challenges escalate, the Stoic practices you develop here hold steady. Your calm presence becomes a tool. Subscribing ensures that you never lose touch with these lessons, so that Stoicism becomes a lived reality rather than a philosophy.